I got Tad here on time, yeah.
Okay, David.
Hey, Mike. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. Just can you talk about this opportunity that's in front of you and the team, and just what a roller coaster the fourth quarter through yesterday was for this team, and kind of where it was and what it meant?
I mean, frankly, I just think it's the National Football League. I think we all clearly understand how hard it is to win a game each and every week. I think if there's ever a time in our season where we just got to really lock down and keep the blinders on, because it's right in front of us, and and everything we've been doing today is about Washington. Players have been in, they've been in the weight room. They've had a chance to watch the Lions game with their coaches. But yes, I mean, it's nothing surprises me. Obviously I was there rooting for the Cardinals all the way, my wife and I, in the fourth quarter. But no, you see it all the time. I mean, it's just such a competitive league.
And is this? This is the third consecutive year now you've had double-digit wins with this team, which hadn't happened here in a while. Is that part of your message all the time too? You got to put yourself in the mix year in and year out, because you don't know when something like this is going to happen.
Definitely. I mean, you got to be knocking on the door every chance you get, because it is so hard to win one. But I think clearly, when you see consistency, I think it speaks to the program and the players, the coaches, the football ops, the buy-in. So it gives you a chance to week in and week out compete and be successful. So yeah, I mean that's definitely the goal. There's a lot that goes into it, but I think clearly where we are today, we put ourselves in position to win the division, and knowing the number 2 seed. So that's a good place to be.
Mike Todd Archer with ESPN. Do you spell that out to the players, or do you think they already knew when by the time they got here today that what a win Sunday would mean? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of whatever time that game was over, 2 minutes later, I know I received a lot of text messages and sent a lot out. So yeah, I think everybody was in tune. I'll be shocked. It'd probably be easier question to ask, like, who didn't watch the game. So
with Tyler Smith, what do you expect from him this week?
I mean, he's sore, so we'll find out more Wednesday. So he has a chance, as the way it's been described.
It's explained that if it's a full tear, that's better than a partial tear, which sounds the opposite of a normal, like when you think of it. Well, how did they explain it to you why that's okay?
Well, the thing about it is, I think those questions are always should be asked to the individual. But the history of the injury, yes, I would agree with your description.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Hankins, you think he might have a much better chance this week?
Yeah, Jonathan had a good workout today, so we'll see how he feels tomorrow, and the goal is to start to work him in Wednesday, is our hope.
We talk a lot about the running game in this room. How do you think you are right now as you head to this last part of the season?
Well, I mean, we spent some extra time today on the run game. We played against a defense Saturday night that, I think there were 64% pressure. I think they had 11 empty pressures. So we had a lot of uphill looks, for our run game. So it wasn't good enough. It's definitely something we'll spend more time on this week.
John Machota with The Athletic. You've been around CEEDEE LAMB now the entire time he's been here. I'm just wondering what stands out to you about him. It just seems that going in the games, teams know that you're going to CEEDEE LAMB, and he's still able to produce at a high level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when you look at CEEDEE, obviously he's extremely gifted, in so many ways. Physically, there's really nothing that he can't do. But I just think that's the way you have to play the wide receiver position. I mean, it's been my personal experience. Defenses, if you can line up in the same spot, I think you make it so much easier for the defense to identify and double you and roll coverage, because obviously he is seeing some form of double weekly, whether it's the cover one double, or they're rolling the quarter half, they're rolling the half safety to him. So his ability to play inside and outside is the point I'm making. It just makes him so versatile, and I think his versatility is a big part of his success, because he has an extensive route menu, and then the person. I mean, he's such a competitive athlete, and loves the opportunity. He never blinks, and So, I mean, he's exactly what you're looking for.
Side, he's The Athletic. Mike, obviously you watched the Cardinals game late afternoon. I'm curious, and you know the repercussions there, but the Sunday night game, do you watch that? Are you in tune with the fact that, Packers win and Packers win next week means Cowboys Packers in the first round, and like how aware are you of all those scenarios as well?
Oh, I'm very aware. I got up, Sunday morning, watched our game. Then I start watching Washington, and then I had the other games on the other on the other TV, and then start watching the Eagles game. Probably in the middle of the second half, and but yes, also watch more Washington, and then watch the Green Bay Minnesota game, because potentially that could be one of our opponents. But yeah, definitely.
And if it is do you let your mind go there at this point of what that could mean and stuff like that?
Well, I think I'm watching it differently. I'm watching to see what they're playing. I was watching their defense, watching what they're doing on offense. No different with Minnesota. So it's just there's trends for every football team, especially this time of year, and I think that's why some teams are playing differently than they did 2 months ago, and I think it's all part of being in tune with it.
The last 2 weeks, your defense held up well in the beginning for most of the game, really, and then that last drive in both games where, how do you view it, just how those last drives went and how you can improve in those areas?
Well, I think it's, just, situational football, what's the coverage and, what you're trying to do. Obviously, the time on the clock, trying to keep them in bounds. They got some chunks there over the middle. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think it's when you play that kind of coverage, you're putting it, your pass rush in a position to win, and so. But yeah, we continue to look at those things.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. Obviously, a lot of talk about the 2-point sequence at the end, but also some talk about the tripping penalty maybe should have gone the other way and might have changed the way the game.
What'd you think? I don't know.
Doesn't matter what I think.
Oh, it does. I mean, you have a voice in this.
What was your view of that on tape, and what would you say about it now? That particular
Oh, I mean, I think the tape is. Clearly. I mean, you probably saw it when they showed it on the replay. The penalty clearly, in our view, really clearly flips the situation, because you're first and 10 on the, I'm not exactly sure it was, 24, 25, 26-yard line there. We took the turnover, and, we're 2nd and 4 with a running clock, so that takes out their second timeout. So now you in a position, because you clearly want to be inside the 30, and I clearly understand how good Brandon's, kicking the ball, but there's also field position, concerns on both sides of that, kick. But when we went to 1st and 25, the goal was to cut it in half, and we did that on the first down with the slant CD. We're expecting pressure, got it. And the same thing on the second down. The second down play is just really a disappointment. Whether it's communication from my end. We just weren't all clean. We got what we were expecting defensively, and was trying to hit the individual cuts to Brandon and CD on the one-on-ones, because that clearly would have put us in a 3rd and short, which I was trying to get to 3rd and 5 or less to give us a chance to convert and end the game. So that was the thinking there. Clearly understanding the time clock and so forth. So we had 3 downs. We were able to keep the clock running on 2 to 3, but the second down call was the one that would have gave us a chance to put the game away.
Mike McCarthy, Dallas Morning News. DeMarcus Lawrence has for years shown a tendency of just in the run game, just really knifing in the backfield. See it really in short yard situations, be a goal line or otherwise. What have you been most impressed with about the way that he's gone about that, including on multiple plays Saturday?
Well, Michael, I think you've already said it. I mean, he's done it like that forever. I know competing against D-Law, and he's still doing it at such a high level. I think when you play defensive end in this league, the first thing people talk about is how many sacks or pressures you have. And I learned this, in the earlier years, and that's why anytime like I see Michael Strahan, I just think of, boy, here's a guy that obviously has broken records and sacks, but you know, he played the run as good or better, you know, and I think D-Law is that same kind of player. You know, he plays, you know, I think that speaks volumes about him as a football player, you know, because people, you know, obviously he can pass rush and has pressures and sacks and has excellent numbers, but, you know, when they bring up how good you play the run, I think that's a huge compliment.
And along those lines, what about his skill set allows him to win as often as he does?
What about his skill set?
Yeah.
Physically? Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got great tools for the position, but I think his tenacity, the way he comes inside, I mean, his, you know, most guys ram the C gap. I mean, D-Law takes the C, B, and A out. I mean, he's so aggressive when he comes down in there.
Babe.
Babe Loffenberg, Cowboys Radio. Mike, you talked about, you know, team won't look the same today as it did 2 months ago, and 17-game season, obviously there's some ups and downs. You know, San Francisco lost 3 in a row, list goes on and on, but where do you feel like your team is right now?
I like where we're at because I think our team need, you know, if you look at the way our season has gone, our football team needed adversity, and I think we've clearly have been put in those positions the last 3 weeks. You know, when we came out of the Philadelphia game, had the, you know, the mini bye or whatever we want to call it. We had a couple of days off there. You know, that was really the message going into the, you know, the next game, or excuse me, coming out of the Seattle game. But, you know, I think that adversity in tight ball games is what playoff football is all about. So obviously we would have liked to win them all this past month, but I think clearly the adversity and the type of games that we've been in will serve us well moving forward.
And in some of that thinking, you know, you go back to 21, you guys had some kind of blowouts late. Philly rested their guys.
Yeah.
Did you think that kind of, I won't say hurt you, but
False confidence? Yeah, maybe. That's fair. No.
I mean, you'd rather have this though.
I'd just rather be healthy. I trust the locker room. We're far enough along as a team. You know, I think our younger players, you know, sometimes they still, you know, just make a few mistakes here of late. But you know, we've played our young guys since September. So I think being healthy is the most important statistic going into the playoffs.
Todd.
Mike, on the two-point play, when the whole reporting issue, do you use that as a coaching point to your team to reinforce what you're supposed to do or how it's supposed to go down, even more so now?
Well, I mean, just, you know, look at our Philadelphia game in Philadelphia. Absolutely. You know, we put you know, John Fossil on a microphone at practice. You know, for that's one of those situations that every time we report, we want to make a big deal about it because, you know, communication, boundary communication, and whether it's substituting the personnel just in a normal phase of it, I mean, those are mistakes that are, you know, unacceptable. And you think about it, you know, that's the longest substitution that you're going to have, you know, going down to the goal line. So yeah, those are the things you always emphasize.
And then if they announce 68 is eligible, are you guys playing that differently as opposed to them looking at lining up differently, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's. I mean, I know on our sideline when he caught the ball, everybody was, you know, there was a number of people screaming 70 was the eligible receiver. So.
Skyler.
Going back to Babe's question, you guys have been chasing for a long time, basically since the Philly loss. Now that you have the inside track, how do you preach sort of business as usual and forget about that and just go play?
I'm laughing because I think you're trying to get me to say I told you so. You just wait till 11 wins and it works out. But I was, you know, I don't want to be that guy. But yeah, that's what 11 wins does for you. But no, I think this is just you know, it's a great reminder to focus on what's right in front of you. You know, and I like to think we've been doing that week in and week out, but we definitely have to do it this week.
You guys had a 2-game losing streak and late in the season, and how come you guys didn't lose your composure or let that spiral out of control in a sense?
I just feel like everything we're playing for is still in front of us. So, you know, we've done a lot of good throughout the year. And the record shows that, and that's why we're in this position. So there was absolutely no reason at all to overreact to the 2 losses.
There's been a lot of discussion about the referees. We've talked to you a lot about it across the league. Do you still believe that talking to refs before the game, just getting a feel for what they might see is beneficial as the game progresses?
Yeah, I've done it for years. I've always been very open and feel like you know, sometimes may tell them too much, you know, and I've also felt that sometimes you talk about things in the pregame and they end up calling it on your team too. So, I mean, I think everybody probably has a philosophy and on how much you talk to them about and so forth. I think, you know, some of the conversation too is, you know, what I always ask every crew is there anything that I need to remind our players about? Because at the end of the day, that they're human, you know, they're watching tape during the week. I mean, and there's patterns that change, you know, throughout the year. And, you know, if there's anything they're emphasizing, I think those are good reminders to give your players, you know, before you step out on the field. But yeah, I think that every crew's a little different, you know, some crews engage in more conversations more than others.
You were talking earlier about just you're glad to see some adversity here, especially as a play caller. How do you balance? You're not as explosive and things. You want to be hitting on all cycles offensively, but you also know no team goes through the playoffs with a smooth run offensively too. There are going to be challenges and you guys have dropped down quite a bit point wise. Just how do you balance that? Just the importance of more situational, not everything explosive going your way, and how does that serve you in postseason?
Well, I think, you know, clearly I've talked about time and time again, big plays is so important in this game. You got to hit your big play opportunities. The NFL will, you know, to have success, that they'll definitely will hold up statistically. But you know, I've been saying this now for 2 years, and I feel like we're really, you know, we've really arrived at the complementary football formula. I think that you have to sometimes, you know, win 20-19. You know, I don't know if it's more thrilling for everybody else when you win 31-30. I mean, but you know, I understand. But that's what a complementary football team is, and I think when you look at the statistical components of that, you know, you want, you know, both your offense and defense to be in the top 10. Definitely as far as how many points you give up versus how many you score. But you know, the turnover ratio to me has always been a huge variable of a successful football team. You know, and we needed to get our giveaways down. You know, our giveaways have been too high the last 3 years, and so far we've done that. We need to carry that into this game this week, because frankly, let's be honest with you, the playoffs have already started. I mean, the way this thing lines up for Sunday, there'll be more playoff games played Sunday than there will be the rest of the playoff season. So, I just think you want your team playing a certain way, and everybody, has that opinion, and based on how you're using your players and things like that, and I do feel that the complementary football team, one that they can play to that level, is a really good formula for playoff football.
Piggybacking on some of the questions about the focus going into this week against a team that hasn't won a game in 2 months, do you look at last year's season finale as a cautionary tale? Do you share that with the team about it was at Washington, all that stuff? Do you bring that up at all?
Definitely, it'll be part of our cut-ups. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And especially with the weather that we may be getting. So yeah, we'll talk about all those things.
A simple sounding question, but I know there's a lot to it. What makes Brandon Cook such a good pro?
Well, on the field, super competitive. I think he has a clear understanding of everything that's going on. How he fits to the quarterback and the pass part of it. Has a clear understanding schematically. His role in the run game. Just very, very smart football player. I think his knack for big plays and big moments has been awesome for us. But off the field, I think he just goes to a different level. He's all football. He's a big family man, very well respected. So has great work habits. So I can't really think anything not nice to say about him.
And the way that he's mentored younger guys like Jalen, it seems like with everything you described, he could be a pretty good coach someday.
Who, Brandon?
Yeah.
He's too smart to get a coach.
But do you see when you start, coaching different guys coming in out of your locker room, there's certain ones that you remember like, this guy, if he wanted to,
I think more and more every day. You know, I just think that these guys that, you know, just think about the education that a 10, 12, 14-year pro, you know, goes through, you know. And I think it's, you know, also I think the ones that choose your profession too, I think they've added a lot of, you know, quality, not that you are not quality people, but I think that the whole, you know, education that these guys get, they, you know, it's good for them to have options, whether it's coaching, whether it's media, whether it's TV, because their understanding of the game of football, you know, on and off the field is so high, and they give great. I think they would give great insight to anybody.
All righty. Thank you, Mike.
Mike,
Thank
Thank you.